I really specifically liked this poem because the writer had used really good descriptive words. So straight away it gave me great ideas to look at and colours. So I really enjoyed that, and I broke down the poem into sentences and words that I liked and then gathered imagery based on that. So I did use like imagery research, but that was based on the words that I'd originally read in the poem.
I definitely feel like it was different. Usually when I write for an assessment, I'll take from things that I like to write about and the ways I like to write. Whereas for this specific project, I had to keep in mind the needs of somebody else. And while I was writing for that, I feel like it was more restrictive in that I couldn't necessarily go overboard. I couldn't make it long or hard to understand. But I feel like in that restriction, there's also an element of creativity because you be quite creative and think out of the box in order to write something that can be designed into a piece that isn't just one color or one texture. So I definitely think it was different from my usual process, but not in a bad way. It was a good learning experience, I would say. I'm still kind of shocked and humbled by the fact that somebody could read something that I had written, something that I didn't even think somebody would read or give a second look at, and really analyze and go over and take from that materials and tones and textures and put together a piece that somebody could actually wear and display proudly. And I think that that's something that every creative individual aspires to.
I took the colours to start with, so I based the alternative materials on that. So for ivory, I used air-dried clay. To get any colours, I used enamel and acrylic. And then processes, I mainly used the laser cutter to get pattern and texture, and then I used enamel for colours that I wanted in the design.
Well, this poem was actually specifically written for this project. My poem is about a dragon, and it basically just describes his history and his relation with this environment that he's in. Because the project I was working for I knew was going to be designed into jewellery, I specifically kept in mind that I had to use a lot of imagery and description rather than metaphors and feelings. So for this I definitely, I focused a lot on the colours, the textures, and yeah, instead of his emotions or like who he was as a dragon. I tried to keep it simple as far as style went as well. I didn't really want to have something that was too complicated to read or required more than one reading to understand. So I kind of kept for just a basic, every last word rhymes with the one in the next line. Yeah, I've always kind of been inspired by fantasy, and I think that you can take a lot from it to design from. So I wanted to keep it kind of open and up to the designer's interpretation.
I think the way that I worked for this project, I actually really enjoyed it, and I've began using it in my other projects. So I experimented with the materials and created lots of little samples, and then developed the design using all the little pieces that I'd created. So I've actually started using that for other projects because I like the way that it worked for me. As for anything different, maybe try out a few more materials maybe or techniques, but I really like the way that I work for this project.
Eyes like liquid pools of steel burn hot against arctic scales of black that line this beast's monstrous back. His jaws give mighty cracks on each and every human snack. He grasps crimson rubies in ivory claw and shrouds himself in a cascade that glitters, as with priceless trinkets his stone floor is littered. King of death, his throne of bone is comprised of countless massacres. Leathery wings eclipse all soul, as he weaves amongst his treasured gold. Night snake as elegant as he is old, soaked in blood within mountains of fortunes untold. He spits fire like sunset's blaze, thick spirals which burn in a destructive haze, leaves all life bereft if caught in his way. Once green saplings, now charred, dead and grey. Silent assassin, soaring high, sombre frame of starless obsidian come by, forebodes apocalyptic flame against cerulean sky. As moonlight twinkles like stars and his scales multiply, once whispered in tales but not seen in lives, the dragon's aerial surveillance survives, and blends ink-like when day turns nightwise, his bright red gaze like jewels in every sunrise.